110 phase _4 determining the characteristics and qualities of the ground. Phase 4 determining the characteristics and qualities of the ground. 2. An explanation of the characteristics of the non-delusive essential nature, the kayas, and facets of primordial consciousness. This section has two parts, at the teaching and b. the explanation. At the teaching. The essential nature of the whole world of appearances is emptiness. Great emptiness is spontaneously actualized as the essential nature of the path. Thus, the essential nature of the whole world of appearances is ascertained with pristine awareness as emptiness, and this great emptiness is primordially spontaneously actualized as the essential nature of the path. This is like waking up to the nature of existence within yourself, or like the dawn breaking, for it is not modified with effort. b. The explanation. This section has three parts: I. The ground great perfection of existence, E. The path great perfection of realization, and E. The fruitional great perfection of actualization. I. The ground great perfection of existence. This section has three parts: at the actual characteristics of the ground, B. The context of skillful means and wisdom, and C. The summary of their meaning. At the actual characteristics of the ground. The essential nature of the Dharmakaya, the Shugatagarbha, is not modified or altered by either samsara or nirvana. Free of the extremes of conceptual elaboration, it is imbued with the three doors of liberation. It is spontaneously actualized as the five kayas, the five Buddha families, the five facets of primordial consciousness. The essential nature of all knowable phenomena is the Dharmakaya, the Shugatagarbha, which is not modified or altered by the faults or virtues of either samsara or nirvana. It is free of the extremes of conceptual elaboration and is imbued with the three doors of liberation. It is primordially present in a fourfold nature as the five kayas, the five Buddha families, the five facets of primordial consciousness, and so forth. 1. This ground Shugatagarbha neither enhances nor is enhanced by all the facets of primordial consciousness and qualities of the domain of Buddhahood, for it has no object. 2. This ground Shugatagarbha has not arisen with a beginning, end, or interim, it does not so arise, and it will not so arise, so it is free of the extreme of birth. Since it never becomes non-existent, it is free of the extreme of cessation. Since it does not fall to the extreme of existence and substantiality and has not been seen, is not seen, and will not be seen, even with the eyes of the jinnas, it is free of the extreme of permanence. Since it does not fall to the extreme of non-existence or nothingness and is established as the ground of both samsara and nirvana, it is free of the extreme of annihilation. Since there is no place or agent from where it first came, it is free of the extreme of coming. Since it transcends going to any place or being an agent in the three times, it is free of the extreme of going. Since it is of one taste as the essential nature of samsara and nirvana, it is free of the extreme of diversity. 3. Since it is not ascertained as having any partiality and does not fall to any extreme, it is the door of liberation of emptiness. Since it cannot be indicated by words, analogies, or reference, it is the door of liberation of signlessness. Since liberation is achieved by way of confidence in yourself, and since there is not the slightest desire for liberation resulting from anything else, it is the door of liberation of desirelessness. 4. Here there are four subdivisions. As for the five kayas, all phenomena, dharmas, of samsara and nirvana are naturally present in the Shugatagarbha, so it is called dharma. Since phenomena are assembled or aggregated, without being mixed together in terms of appearances, it is called kaya. Since the spontaneously actualized kayas and displays of primordial consciousness are naturally perfected as enjoyments, it is called the Sambhogakaya. Since it is variously emanated as nothing other than itself and is naturally present, it is called the Nirmanakaya. Since the three kayas are in essence of one taste and are naturally present, it is called the svabhavikaya. Since it does not move or change in the three times, it is immutable. It is invulnerable to all mental afflictions and habitual propensities. It is indestructible by all objects and circumstances. Since it is originally pure by its own essential nature, it is real. Since it cannot be contaminated by faults or virtues or by anything good or bad, it is incorruptible. Since it does not move or change in the three times, it is stable. Since it can penetrate everything, including even subtle cognitive obscurations, it is unobstructible. Since it cannot be transformed by anything, it is invincible. Since it is imbued with these seven qualities, it is a Vajra. Since all the facets of primordial consciousness and sublime qualities are naturally perfected, it is a Kaya. B. As for the five Buddha families, the originally pure ground of being is the Buddha family. The ground of being is unconquerable and indestructible, so it is the Vajra family. In the ground of being, primordial consciousness is perfect, so it is the Jewel family. The great bliss of the ground of being is the Lotus family. The spontaneously actualized perfection of the ground of being is the Karma family. C. As for the five facets of primordial consciousness, the essential nature of the ground, all-pervasive emptiness, is the primordial consciousness of the absolute space of phenomena. Its self-illuminating nature is mirror-like primordial consciousness. The purity and equality of samsara and nirvana is the primordial consciousness of equality. The unimpeded luminosity of the qualities of primordial consciousness is discerning primordial consciousness. Original, primordial freedom is the primordial consciousness of accomplishment. D. As for the five dakinis, the emptiness of the absolute space of the ground is the Buddha Dakini. The freedom from faults is the Vajra Dakini. The spontaneous actualization of sublime qualities is the Jewel Dakini. The freedom from attachment is the Lotus Dakini. The spontaneous actualization of perfection is the Karma Dakini. Their natural perfection in the ground itself is the real characteristic of the ultimate ground of being. By gradually realizing this nature of existence in accordance with your faculties, as described previously, and familiarizing yourself with this path of practice without reliance upon anything else, liberation is actualized in this lifetime or in the intermediate period. B. The context of skillful means and wisdom. This section has three parts: 1. The context of skillful means, 2. The context of wisdom, and their purpose and the presentation of them. 1. The context of skillful means. The five Buddhafields, the five male deities, the five female consorts, the three jewels. The three routes, the classes, mandalas, empowerments, and worship. As the essential nature of Mahayoga. These relative, effortful paths are taught for the sake of those who do not fathom the ultimate, effortless path, or who have no confidence in it even if they do fathom it. In accordance with the basis of samsara, which is to be purified, the purifiers are the five Buddhafields, the five kayas with the faces, hands, and marks, the five Buddha families, the five male deities, the five female consorts, the three jewels, the three roots, the pacifying, enriching, powerful, and wrathful classes of deities, and mandalas, the four empowerments, worship, accomplishment, applications of the activities, and so on. All such presentations of the path of secret mantra Mahayoga are evaluated and established merely as aspects of the ground Shugatagava. So the Shugatagava is spontaneously actualized as the essential nature of all the paths of Mahayoga. 2. The context of wisdom. The five displays inside the body. The purification, transmutation, igniting, and descent of the channels, vital energies, and bindus, together with the empowerments and four blisses, are all spontaneously actualized emanations of the Shugatagava. The displays inside the city of the body, or the Vajra aggregate, including the 5 chakras of channels, the 3 stationary channels, including the Avaduti, Lalana, and Rasana, the moving vital energies, and the displays of the bindis of Bodhisattva, are purified and transmuted by the paths of skillful means of vase breathing, adhisara, the igniting and descent of Kandali, the 4 empowerments, and the paths, together with the 4 blisses. Although none of them are established as ultimately real, for practical reasons they are emanated and presented as spontaneously actualized qualities of the Shugatagava. So this is also the essential nature of all the paths of secret mantra Anuyoga. 3. Their purpose and the presentation. In short, the Dharmakaya, absolute space devoid of signs, is bound with names, modes, and signs in accordance with the ways of samsara, in order to guide disciples who grasp at permanence, and to counteract 6 kinds of craving. Visualizing, purity, and emptiness serve as remedies. In short, the Dharmakaya, absolute space devoid of signs, in accordance with the ways of samsara, is bound with names, modes, and signs, including the directions, buddhafields, male deities, female consorts, and attendants, together with the circle of spiritual sons. Teachings about them as if they actually existed are in order to guide disciples who reify and grasp at the permanence of the physical world and its sentient inhabitants, and they counteract 6 kinds of craving for places, self, others, clothing, ornaments, and seats. Visualizing aspects of deities, recalling purity, and the emptiness of inherent nature of appearing phenomena serve as remedies for the impure, delusive appearances of samsara. These are cases of signs being used to counteract signs, just as the pain of fire causes you to avoid getting burned. Those impure, delusive appearances are then transformed into displays of pure deities of primordial consciousness, and by stabilizing them, liberation is achieved as a Sambhogakaya in the intermediate period. See the summary. Therefore, those relative, artificial dharmas of all the yanas are emanated from and reabsorbed into the Shugatagava, like rivers that emerge from and return to the ocean. So it is known as the ground great perfection. Therefore, out of temporary necessity, the teachings on the relative, artificial dharmas of the stage of generation and the presentations of the path of the stage of completion, as well as the whole inconceivable range of yanas, are initially emanated from the Shugatagava and finally are reabsorbed, by identifying their nature and directly experiencing confidence in it. This is like all the rivers of the world first emerging from the great ocean and finally returning to it. In summary, even when the delusive appearances and mindsets of samsara have withdrawn into the ethically neutral ground, all the displays of the kayas, facets of primordial consciousness, and sublime qualities are self-emergent and perfectly present within that inner glow, without becoming non-existent. So it is known among all scholars and adepts as the ground great perfection. The path great perfection of realization. This section has 2 parts, at the perfection of the presentations of the yanas up to Anuyoga in the path of the great perfection and b. unmistaken teachings on the path of the great perfection itself. At the perfection of the presentations of the yanas up to Anuyoga in the path of the great perfection. This section has 2 parts, 1. The elaborate explanation and 2. The summary. 1. The elaborate explanation. Regarding Tirthikis, who seek a path while clinging to the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. Those who wander in samsara by deluding their midstreams with clinging to and reifying appearances and the mind. Sravakis, who take personal identitylessness as the path. Pratyekabuddhas, whose path apprehends emptiness and the links of dependent origination in forward and reverse order. Sitamatrans, who view the world of appearances as the mind. Madhyamikis, who apprehend all phenomena as empty. Followers of Kriya, who primarily emphasize hygiene and cling to realms. Followers of Upaya, who integrate the higher and lower views and conduct. Followers of yoga, who regard the Samayasattva and Jnanasattva as autonomously different. Followers of Mahayoga, who mistakenly view objects as autonomously real, and the path of Anuyoga, in which there is the pretense of actualizing the cause and fruition of absolute space and primordial consciousness. With the actualization of the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, since ultimate reality does not fall to the extreme of eternalism or nihilism, this perfects the minds of Tirthikis, who seek a path while clinging to the extremes of eternalism and nihilism. By letting the mind and appearances rest in their own state without modification, this perfects the minds and appearances of ordinary sentient beings, who cling to and reify appearances and the mind and whose deluded mind-streams consequently wander in samsara. By directly, effortlessly seeing the reality of identitylessness, this perfects the Sravakayana, in which personal identitylessness is taken as the path. By realizing all appearances and mindsets as being of the nature of dependently related events, this perfects the Pratyekabuddhayana, by which you primarily apprehend the links of dependent origination in forward and reverse order and the sheer luminosity and emptiness of the mind. By decisively understanding all appearances as being none other than the mind, this perfects the Cittamatrayana, by which you view the world of appearances as the mind. By realizing the meaning of both kinds of identitylessness, this perfects the Madhyamakayana, by which you apprehend all phenomena as empty. By realizing emptiness which purifies causes and conditions, this perfects the Kriyayana, which primarily emphasizes practices of purification and hygiene in terms of the view and conduct, and which clings to the substantial existence of pure deities who dwell in external realms. By realizing the perfect nature of the non-duality of the view and conduct, this perfects the Upayana, which integrates the higher and lower views and conduct. By realizing the primacy of the view, this perfects the Yogayana, by which you regard yourself as the Samayasattva, and the deity as the Jnanasattva, as autonomously different. By realizing the non-duality of the deity and your own mind, this perfects the Mahayogayana, by which you mistakenly view pure deities and Buddha fields as objects existing with their own characteristics and as autonomously real. By realizing the non-dual nature of absolute space and primordial consciousness, this perfects the Anuyogayana, in which you purify the causal impure channels, bindus, and vital energies as pure displays of absolute space, resulting in the pretense of actualizing the fruition of primordial consciousness. Moreover, by realizing the absence of waxing and waning and of movement and change in ultimate reality, the view of eternalism is perfected, and by realizing it as baseless and rootless, the view of nihilism is perfected. Since the mind has no referent object and is without modification or alteration, as in the case of ordinary people, this perfects their appearances. All the qualities of the paths and fruitions from the Sravakayana Vivasika up to Anuyoga are simultaneously perfected in the manifestation of the Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, so this is established as the perfection of the qualities of the paths and fruitions of all the yanas. The reason is that regardless of the yana that you first enter, the ultimate fruition cannot be achieved without devoting yourself to the path of the great perfection. So all the qualities of those paths and fruitions are encompassed within the path of the great perfection, with the higher incorporating the lower. 2. The summary. All the grounds, paths, meditative experiences, and realizations of those yanas are spontaneously actualized facets of the great perfection. Like regarding water taken from the ocean as the entire ocean, all yanas are seen as deficient by those who realize the meaning of this. Therefore, all the qualities of the causal grounds and paths and resultant meditative experiences and realizations of those yanas are presented in accordance with the temperaments and capacities of disciples so that they may reach the ultimate path. They are each regarded as facets, or aspects, of the spontaneously actualized clear light of the nature of existence, the great perfection. They merely claim to be the complete path for achieving Buddhahood. This is like taking a drop of water from the ocean to slake your thirst and regarding it as the entire ocean. Therefore, if they are evaluated by those who truly realize the meaning of this great perfection, all the jhanas from Anuyoga on down are seen to be obscured by strenuously abandoning and remedying things, due to failing to see the meaning of innate, natural liberation. So they are seen as deficient. B. Unmistaken teachings on the path of the great perfection itself. In the absolute space of pristine awareness, which is actualized by wisdom and primordial consciousness. The Buddha Samantabhadra, who is free of relinquishment and attainment, is the great perfection, the essential nature of samsara, nirvana, and the path. Therefore, this is renowned as the path great perfection. In the absolute space of pristine awareness, which is actualized by the essential nature, wisdom, and its creative power, great primordial consciousness, the original Buddha Samantabhadra, who is free of relinquishment of faults that were there before and of the fresh attainment of qualities that were not there before, is the unmistaken essential nature of samsara, nirvana, and the path. Since this is the authentic perception of the nature of existence of the great perfection, it is universally renowned as the path great perfection. E. The fruitional great perfection of actualization. This section has two parts, A. The actual fruition, and B. How it is free of the two extremes. At the actual fruition. All the causal jhanas that have the pretense of being the ground of the fruition are actualized as the Shugatagava, Samantabhadra. Appearances and mindsets of samsara are naturally liberated, without abandoning them. As kayas and facets of primordial consciousness, this is the authentic teaching of all the jhanas. All pretentious claims regarding other fruitions are wearisome. Therefore, all this is the fruition of all dharmas. The spontaneous actualization of the fruitional great perfection. Although there are pretentious claims that all bodhisattvas who enter the causal jhanas of philosophical investigation accumulate merit and knowledge and purify obscurations for 3 countless eons and so on, finally culminating in the fruitional achievement of omniscience, the cloud of Dharma of the 10th ground states, the Tathagata ground of total illumination is not achieved. This is because the habitual propensities of movements of the 3 appearances have not been abandoned. In this phase, first you identify the nature of existence of pristine awareness, the Shugatagava, then you acquire confidence in this, and finally you truly actualize it. By so doing, either in this lifetime or in the intermediate period, the supreme state of Samantabhadra, the primordial protector, is achieved. This is a distinctive characteristic of this path. Like ice melting into water, all appearances and mindsets of samsara are naturally liberated, without abandoning them, as kayas and facets of primordial consciousness. This is established as the authentic teaching of all the jhanas. All other pretentious claims regarding beings migrating from one life to another and eventually achieving a dualistic fruition, with something to achieve and someone who achieves it, are wearisome. Not only is it simply exhausting, but it is impossible for enlightenment to ever be its result. Therefore, pristine awareness, the Shugatagava, is the ultimate fruition of all the dharmas of the path, and for this reason it is the spontaneous actualization and completion of the fruitional great perfection. B. How it is free of the two extremes. Without falling to the extremes of mundane existence or peace. The creative power of primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is, and perceives the full range of phenomena, blazes forth. Apart from pristine awareness, the Shugatagava, which is free of both kinds of obscurations together with their habitual propensities, any other Buddhahood is impossible. Without falling to the extreme of mundane existence, like ordinary sentient beings, and without falling to the extreme of peace, like Sravakis and Pratyekabuddhas, the great creative power of primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is and that perceives the full range of phenomena blazes forth. Having fulfilled your own goals, it eternally, all-pervasively, and spontaneously serves the needs of sentient beings with great, objectless compassion for as long as space remains, so others' goals are fulfilled as well. B. The genesis of conventional names. Although the genesis of names is not different. For the sake of disciples, it is given conventional names. All the specific names in accordance with conventional, relative truth are none other than names for pristine awareness, the Shugetagava, for all phenomena are not other than this, and the ultimate nature of existence transcends all expressions of speech and thought. Therefore, although the genesis of conventional names, the presentations of the grounds and paths, and so on, is not established as being different, conventional names are temporarily given so that, the Shugetagava, may be indicated with names and words and disciples may realize it. Here are 5 such designations of conventional names. First, regarding the secret mantra Vajrayana, this path is called secret because it is imbued with 2 great secrets. It is called mantra because it is the place of liberation of all the yanas. The Dharmakaya, pristine awareness that is present in the ground, is called Vajra, for it is endowed with the 7 Vajra qualities. Since it is not modified or altered by samsara or nirvana, it is its own yana. Second, ultimate bodhisattva is the real meaning, the sublimity of all phenomena, pure of faults and stains, and since it fully comprehends all facets of primordial consciousness and sublime qualities and is equally liberated in samsara and nirvana, it is the ultimate reality of the mind. Third, the great perfection perfects the intended meanings of the 9 yanas. It is the universal basis of all the yanas, so it is great. Fourth, the soul Bindu is called Bindu, for it transcends the edges and corners of concepts, and it is called soul, for it is the one taste of all of samsara and nirvana. Fifth, the youthful Vaskaya is called youthful, for it is free of birth, death, aging, and degeneration. It is called Vas, for the periphery of spontaneous actualization is not breached. And it is called Kaya, for it perfects the facets of primordial consciousness and sublime qualities. In these ways it is indicated with 5 names, for you must unmistakably realize that which is indicated, namely, the nature of existence of the Shugetagava. This concludes the summary of the 4th phase of the sharp Vajra of conscious awareness Tantra.